Psychology Today presents 13 narcissistic manipulation tactics you should know about. In recent years, there has been a great increase in awareness of narcissistic personality disorders and the manipulative tactics that accompany them. Narcissism is a personality trait characterized by an excessive need for admiration, an exaggerated self-centeredness, and a lack of empathy. Narcissistic manipulative tactics can be subtle and difficult to detect, but they can have a significant impact on interpersonal relationships and the mental health of the individual. It is important to note that not everyone who exhibits manipulative behavior necessarily has narcissistic personality disorder. However, narcissistic manipulative tactics can be used by people with narcissistic traits or other personality disorders. Furthermore, these tactics can also be used by individuals without diagnosable disorders to advance their own interests and needs at the expense of others. In this article, we will look in more detail at some of the narcissistic manipulation tactics that you should be aware of in order to protect yourself from their effects. By familiarizing ourselves with these tactics, we can develop a better understanding of how they work and how to protect ourselves from them. One of the tactics often used is emotional manipulation. Narcissists have a talent for exploiting and manipulating other people's emotions to achieve their own goals. They may create feelings of guilt, for example, by constantly criticizing, sowing doubt, or blaming others for problems. In this way, they try to gain control over their victims and make them emotionally dependent. Another manipulation tactic is gaslighting. This involves systematically confusing and questioning the victim in order to challenge their own reality. For example, the narcissist denies events, distorts facts, or manipulates memories to unsettle the victim and influence his or her own perceptions. This causes the victim to doubt his or her own sanity and to feel increasingly dependent on the narcissist. Other manipulative tactics include exploiting the victim's weaknesses and insecurities, purposefully spreading rumors and lies, isolating the victim from his or her social contacts, and constantly seeking admiration and attention. These tactics serve to maintain control over the victim and undermine his or her self-esteem. It is important to recognize these manipulative tactics in order to protect against them. Number 1. Gaslighting. Gaslighting is a subtle but highly effective manipulation tactic in which the narcissist distorts the victim's reality. This is done by challenging perceptions, denying events, or twisting facts. The narcissist makes the victim doubt their sanity and makes them question their own perceptions and memories. This gives the narcissist tremendous control as the victim feels increasingly confused and insecure. Number 2. Blame. Narcissists often shy away from taking responsibility for their own mistakes and problems. Instead, they blame others, especially their victim. They exploit feelings of guilt by attributing responsibility for negative events to the victim. In this way, they manipulate the victim in order to assert their own interests and to bind him or her emotionally to themselves. Number 3. Victimhood. Narcissists are masters at portraying themselves as victims. They use this behavior to gain sympathy, empathy, and support from others. However, at the same time, they use the victim to fulfill their own needs and exert control. By presenting themselves as victims, they gain sympathy and can get others to comply with their demands. Number 4. Isolation. Narcissistic manipulators often try to isolate the victim from their social environment. They influence the victim to distance themselves from family and friends in order to increase their control. By isolating themselves, they create a dependency on the narcissist, as the victim is left with few or no support systems to turn to other than the narcissist. Number 5. Manipulation through flattery. Narcissists often use flattery, praise, and compliments to boost their victim's self-esteem. By enhancing the victim and making them feel special and important, they can gain the victim's trust and manipulate them into following their instructions or complying with their wishes. The victim feels flattered and is more inclined to comply with the narcissist's demands. Number 6. Projection. Narcissists tend to project their own negative traits, thoughts, and behaviors onto others, especially their victim. By blaming or accusing the victim of their own faults, they create confusion and doubt in the victim. The victim begins to doubt themselves and may take responsibility for things that are not their fault. Number 7. Control over communication. Narcissists attempt to control and manipulate communication to maintain their power over the victim. They may intimidate, interrupt, ignore, or use verbal abuse against the victim to assert their own views and interests. By dominating communication, they prevent the victim from freely expressing their thoughts, needs, and feelings. Number 8. Triangulation. Narcissists like to bring in a third person to stir up conflict and exert control. They may compare the victim to others, spread negative information about the victim, or create a rivalry between the victim and another person. Through this triangulation, they increase their power and control over the victim as he or she is constantly in a state of uncertainty and competition. Number 9. Intermittent reward. Narcissists irregularly reward their victim with attention, affection, or love. These rewards are given randomly and sporadically to keep the victim in a state of uncertainty. The victim is never sure when he or she will receive the reward, and thus develops a strong emotional dependence on the narcissist. Number 10. Emotional deprivation. Narcissists deliberately deprive their victim of emotional support, affection, or attention. By treating the victim coldly and dismissively or ignoring their emotional needs, they create an atmosphere of insecurity and dependency. The victim desperately tries to gain the narcissist's attention and affection in order to meet his or her own emotional needs. Number 11. False promises. Narcissists often make empty promises to manipulate the victim. They make big promises to achieve their own goals, but with no intention of actually keeping those promises. The victim is deceived into false hopes and expectations, which increases their dependence and control by the narcissist. Number 12. Excessive control. Narcissists seek extensive control over their victim's life. They want to control the victim's decisions, behavior, and activities. They do this by limiting the victim's autonomy and self-determination. The narcissist wants to ensure that the victim remains dependent on him and follows his instructions. Number 13. Devaluing the victim's feelings. Narcissists tend to belittle or ignore the victim's feelings. They show little empathy or respect for the victim's emotional needs. By trivializing or dismissing the victim's feelings, they gain power and control. The victim may feel unimportant or invisible and is willing to put the narcissist's needs above their own. It is critical to be aware of the various narcissistic manipulation tactics to protect oneself from potentially harmful relationships and situations. Narcissists are masters of manipulation and can harm their victims emotionally, psychologically, and even physically. By becoming familiar with these manipulative tactics, we can better recognize our own limitations and needs and maintain our personal integrity. It is important to recognize that we are not responsible for the behavior of a narcissistic manipulator. It is our responsibility to set our own boundaries and disengage from harmful relationships. Getting help from friends, family, or professionals can be an important support in moving out of such toxic dynamics. By educating ourselves about narcissistic manipulation tactics and strengthening our own self-confidence and self-esteem, we can protect ourselves from the harmful effects of a narcissistic relationship. It is important to respect our own needs, feelings, and boundaries and to build relationships based on honesty, respect, and mutual growth. Ultimately, it is within our power to free ourselves from narcissistic manipulation and move our lives in a positive and healthy direction. By focusing on ourselves and prioritizing our well-being, we can build strong, fulfilling relationships and live fulfilling lives. If you enjoyed this video, give it a thumbs up and share it with your friends so we can keep making them. For more videos like this, hit the subscribe button and remember to click on the notification bell. Also, be sure to check out our other videos as well. Thanks for watching.